meeting for the City Council for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for October 14th, 2019. If you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the clerk please call the roll of the members?
Zachary Urban,
Present.
David Keeter,
Present.
Amanda Weaver,
Here.
Christy Davis,
Here.
Janice Hoppy,
Present.
Leah Dozeman,
Here.
Larry Matthews,
Here.
and George Pond. I did not receive word from him. I assume he's not here.
He's not here now.
He's ill.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. We have no minutes in our package for approval. We will, are there any changes to the agenda that any counselor would like to make? We will proceed with the agenda as published. We are now on citizens' right to speak. This is any citizen may come forward on any item not on the agenda and speak for 3 minutes. I will call your name when I do. If you would come to the podium and adjust the microphone so that we can hear you. Give us your first name and last name. If you'd spell your last name and give us your address. The clerk will set the timer when that is done, and you'll have 3 minutes. When the green light, I think, starts to blink, you have 30 seconds left, and when the orange light blinks, you have 15 seconds left, and when the red light goes on, your time has expired. So our first speaker is Vivian Voss and Carol Matthews on deck.
Vivian Voss, that's V-O-S, 6920 West 47th Place. Good evening. Earlier this month, I attended at Jefferson County what is called logic and accuracy testing on their voting equipment. And we had several hours there, and we were able to ask all the questions and get all the answers. The whole election balloting was just a real quandary to me as to how that all happens. We know we drop our ballot, and that's the last we hear about it other than the tally of the votes. So I was interested in it. It was fun, had a lot of questions answered, but the one thing that was answered for me was that their server is, there's a name for it, I don't know what it is, but it's a closed server so that there's no hacking. And that impressed me in the fact to realize that ballots in Jefferson County are pretty secure. So I liked that. And to that end, I want to tell people that you can tour on November 4th at 1 p.m. You can tour the facilities. It's a secure facility. So you could just get on the elections@jeffco.com webpage, and I believe there's a registration to do. It's free, but it was a lot of fun to learn how our system works. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carol Matthews.
Carol Matthews, 3851 Hoyt. In the past few weeks, the city has gathered to honor members of the business community and the boards and commissions who have contributed to our activities that drive the city. Tonight, I would like to recognize one more person who has contributed to this effort. Sarah Spalding has been the lady behind the scenes, planning and promoting city events. Sarah was the lady responsible for the 65th anniversary gala. She led a troop of staffers and city volunteers in planning and executing a historical event. She facilitates most city gatherings and photographs and posts pictures for the community. Sarah has worked to improve communications to all citizens of the city. We hear from Sarah when there is a public meeting or an event planned or to celebrate outstanding citizens or groups. We can get a factual account of an accident or a street closing on social media. Sarah has broadened the city's communication network beyond the city website to Facebook and Nextdoor. Communication is the most important factor in running our city. Sarah, as our public information officer, is working on it. She is doing it with expertise and grace. Sarah's motto is, "Give me the facts," and that is the way she reports them. Thanks for your service, Sarah Spalding.
Thank you, and well said. That's all of the people that I have signed up to speak tonight. Is there anyone who hasn't signed up who would like to come forward and speak now? You may do so. I don't see anyone, so we'll close our public comment and go to, we don't have anything on the consent agenda item, which is number 1, so we'll go to agenda item number 2. Mr. Urban, would you please introduce agenda item number 2?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 56-2019, a resolution adopting the city budget and appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies for the city of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for the 2020 budget year.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, and I would like to open the public hearing. And Mr. Goff, do you have a presentation for us tonight? We do. Thank you. Okay.
I think our PowerPoint is just warming up here.
Were we going to dim the lights any, or?
Is that coming up?
Thank you.
Where to go? Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We do have a brief presentation this evening. We went into quite a bit of detail at the study session. We've had numerous public meetings on the 2020 budget. So tonight's just going to give you a quick summary of the general funds, and if we can get it up here.
Yeah, it's showing here.
You know what, on the, maybe the, might have got hit.
Oh,
No? Oh, that's weird.
well, I'll keep playing with it. Is it control?
No. Did you do this once?
Yeah.
Well. Yeah. It was just up 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get started. So as I mentioned, we're just going to give a quick budget overview this evening. We had a study session back on August 16th, no, September 16th, I'm sorry, and went into quite a bit of detail on the budget. But happy to present the budget this evening to City Council, and also present this Distinguished Budget Presentation Award that the city just received for our 2019 budget. This just came in last week. But we apply for this every year, and we've been receiving it in the last few years. And in order to receive this budget award, it's from the Government Finance Officers Association. The city must satisfy nationally recognized guidelines for effective budget presentation as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communications device. Our budget document was rated proficient in these 4 categories in the 14 mandatory criteria within those categories. So I want to thank staff and congratulate staff again. We are following best practices for our budget process. So I think it's probably our sixth or seventh year in a row we've received that. So the 2020 budget was presented to City Council again a few weeks ago, and our budget is made up of several different funds. We have a general fund operating budget, which is 51% of our total budget, and we'll get into the exact numbers here in a bit. But then we have several special revenue funds that have been created to track specific revenues and expenditures in their own funds. And those are the Public Art Fund, the Police Investigation Fund, Open Space, Municipal Court, Conservation Trust, Equipment Replacement, and Crime Prevention. Those funds make up only about 5% of the total city budget, so they're fairly small. Then we have our Capital Improvement Program budget, our CIP budget, and that makes up about 24% of the total budget, and that's for the major infrastructure capital projects that we budget for separately. And then right now we have a temporary fund, the 2E bond fund, which was created a couple years ago when the voters of Wheat Ridge approved a sales tax increase for 4 major projects. In that budget for 2020, that fund is about 20% of our total budget. And as we mentioned at our study session, the Recreation Center Fund will be dissolved at the end of 2019. It served its purpose since the Recreation Center was constructed, and there is no fund balance left in that budget. So all those expenditures and revenues are going to be incorporated into the general fund in 2020. So the 2020 total proposed budget, again, with all those funds that I just mentioned, is just about $77 million in expenditures. The 2E bond fund is $15 million of that $76 million, and all the other funds, including the general fund and the capital fund and the other special revenue funds, make up about $62 million of that budget. So specifically speaking to the general fund, again, that's our daily operating budget, which is about 50% of that total budget. We're projecting revenues in 2020 of just under $40 million. And this is about a 10% increase of what we're projecting to bring in at the end of this year. Primarily why it's so large, because we are moving in the revenues that the Recreation Center Fund generates into the general fund in 2020. So if we take those revenues out, the general fund we're projecting to increase about 4% in 2020. And that is mainly from the new retail that we're seeing at the Applewood Shopping Center, and then also the building-related use tax and fees that we're seeing from the different residential and commercial development across the city. No luck? I'm not sure what happened. Sorry about that. The 2020 proposed general fund expenditures, we are proposing a budget of just over $39 million, which is about $500,000 less than what we're bringing in revenues. So the additional revenues that we bring in above the expenditures will go into the general fund reserves. And then we're proposing to, out of the general fund, transfer $3.7 million, $3.6 million to our CIP budget, our capital budget, for capital expenditures in 2020, and $100,000 to equipment replacement fund, which we use to replace major equipment in the police department and across the city. So the expenditures for 2020 are about a 7.9% increase compared to this year's budget. However, again, the reason that is so large is because we're moving all the Recreation Center Fund expenditures into the general fund in 2020, and those expenditures are about $2.5 million. So without the other amount of the increase it's about $400,000. So the majority of that increase is because of those general or Recreation Center Fund expenditures. This will leave a ending fund balance in the general fund at the end of 2020 of just under $10 million. The unrestricted portion of that fund balance is about $7.4 million, or equal to 18.8% of the general fund expenditures in 2020. And as City Council knows, that City Council has a policy that we must maintain at least a 17% minimum reserve in the general fund reserve. So we are meeting that. The restricted portion of that fund balance equals about $2.5 million, and that is made up of the city's Tabor 3% reserve, which is required by state law, and that's about $1.2 million. We have about $270,000 of public education government PEG fees revenues that are in the fund balance. They're restricted to the Channel 8 system in the council chambers. And then we have just over $1 million for the Fruitdale project loan. That's part of that restricted reserves, and we'll slowly get paid back that loan from the developer of that project. So moving on to our CIP budget, our capital improvement program and 2E bond fund budgets. The capital improvement program budget for 2020, we are proposing a total budget of just over $18 million. And a majority of that expense for 2020 is for the Wadsworth reconstruction project. There's a lot of, the final design is being completed for that project as we speak, and right-of-way acquisition is underway, and construction could start by the end of next year. The second largest expense in the CIP budget for 2020 is our annual preventative street maintenance, asphalt, slurry seal, chip seal, concrete replacement projects across the city. And our 2E bond fund, our proposed budget for 2020 is $11.6 million. And we only have 2 projects left out of those 4 projects that were in our 2E bond fund. As you remember, we had the Anderson Park project, which is being completed this year as we speak. The Clear Creek Crossing hook ramp, new interchange off I-70 into the Clear Creek Crossing project. That is also being constructed as we complete, as we speak. And $10 million of our bond fund is going towards that project, and we anticipate spending that $10 million this year. So the 2 projects that are still in the 2E bond fund for 2020 are the Gold Line Station. 54% of the budget is for public infrastructure at 52nd Avenue, Ridge Road, Tabor Street, and our linear trail and pedestrian bridge. And then the Wadsworth project, 23% of the 2E bond funds is for the Wadsworth project. And then our debt payment for our bond is about 23% of that total budget for 2020. And on to a couple of the major special funds that we have. The Open Space Fund, we are projecting or proposing a budget of just over $2 million in 2020. And the major projects out of the open space budget for next year are trail maintenance and repair to our trail system, an open space master plan, and the development of a City Plaza community gathering space on 38th Avenue. In our Conservation Trust funds, first of all, the Open Space Fund, the majority of the revenues in that fund come from the Jefferson County Open Space Tax, and there are some grants in there also. Our Conservation Trust Fund, all the revenues in this budget come from the Colorado Lottery, the city's portion of those revenues. And we are proposing a budget in that fund of $821,000 in 2020. And those major projects for 2020 include renovations to Prospect Park, recreation center maintenance projects, and a new playground at Bonnie's Park. And as I mentioned earlier, the Recreation Center Fund, we are proposing to dissolve that at the end of 2019. We are estimating there will be about $70,000 left in that fund at the end of the year, which will be transferred to the general fund at the beginning of 2020. Projected revenues for 2020 from Recreation Center programming and fees is about $2.2 million. Projected expenditures about 2.5. So there's a little bit of a deficit there of just over $300,000 that the general fund will help with. On to staffing changes for 2020. We are proposing a net increase of 3.25 full-time equivalent positions for the city. And one of those is in the Community Development Department is the Neighborhood Engagement Specialist, which is a recommendation out of the Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy study. And we've already received direction from City Council to move forward with the other recommendation out of the NRS, which was a senior planner, and that position is in recruitment as we speak today. Another position in community development is a 0.75 FTE for our landscape inspection program. We have been using interns and intermittent seasonal employees for that position, and it's been successful over the last couple of years. And we are proposing to bring that in as a 3/4 time FTE. And then a half-time payroll technician, that position also has been a part-time intermittent employee. And we are suggesting, since we only have one full-time payroll technician in the city, we need the backup and additional resources in that area. So we are proposing a 0.5 FTE in that area. And then at our budget retreat with City Council a few weeks ago, There was a consensus to also include a 0.5 FTE sustainability coordinator that will work out of the city manager's office and work with our Wheat Ridge Sustainable Committee. And then also, those were all in the general fund. And then in our crime prevention fund, which is funded primarily from the hotel, motel, lodgers tax, we are proposing a 0.5 FTE homeless navigator position to work with the homeless coordinator in Jefferson County, which was just hired, and then also all the other navigator positions that the other cities in Jefferson County are proposing to hire in 2020. So those positions add up to a total of 3.25 FTEs. With that, staff is here to take any questions.
Thank you very much. We will open it up for questions. Well, I want to first open it up to questions from the public.
This is a public hearing, so I guess we need to open.
Public hearing, that's exactly right. So we're going to go to questions, and we are looking for a sign-up sheet that is on its way for item number 2. Doesn't appear to be anybody signed up. Is there anyone here who is not signed up to speak who would like to speak on this number 2 item? You may come forward now. Okay, then we will close the public hearing and open it up for questions from council. Any questions? Mr. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to the development of the green and the 900,000, we're obviously setting that amount in the budget. Is there going to be any other approval or sign off on that project before it goes forward?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Urban. We actually do have this scheduled for next Monday, October 21st. We were waiting actually on the Jefferson County School District to get some final approvals from their folks, and we've been told recently that they've done that, and they will be part of the presentation on October 21st and what this would look like.
Okay. And then kind of the same question for the Wadsworth widening project, and we are dedicating a certain amount in 2020 to the Wadsworth project, but when is the next time that this project comes before council?
Is anybody here from Steve? Help me with that. I'm trying to think if there is any. Right now, again, we're working on right-of-way acquisition, but the finding of no significant impact was signed by the federal government and the state government, so that process has been completed. So I don't know if there's any official approvals required at City Council this time, except for if there's any.
We'll have to go back and bring modify the IGA with CDOT that will speak financial numbers on that. So that will be the next step. And of course, when next year when we go to construction, certainly we have to bring the construction contract before this council.
Okay. And then with respect to the Wadsworth project, is there a certain amount that we are still waiting on as far as approvals or awards within the funding, or?
No, we've received full funding at this point. We don't have actual contracts out, so the contracts could come in at a different number. But based on what our estimation for the project of $45 million still, I believe, is we're fully funded with the federal grant. We just recently received another grant from Dr. Cog. Yeah, so we have the $45 million that we estimate the project's going to cost.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matthews.
Thank you. On the 2E funds, we have 2 projects completed. How did they come out budget-wise? Were we on budget?
Yeah, well, I'll speak to the Anderson Park first. Anderson Park project was, we allocated $4 million of the $33 million in bond funds for that project, but we also did budget money in both the Open Space and Conservation Trust funds to do more. So that project was about $7 million, I think, total. Maybe, I'm sorry, Karen's back here too, she can speak up, but I think about $7 million total with the 2E Conservation Trust and Open Space. And actually the 2E actually spent more because, as you know, we decided to keep the baseball field and put up new lights. So we used about $475,000, I believe, ish from interest in the 2E bond fund towards that project. The other project, the Clear Creek Crossing Hook Ramp project, $10 million was allocated out of the bond fund for that project. The contract amount for that work is about $16 million. And so we'll spend the full $10 million out of 2E. The city's is obligated to cover the additional amount between the 10 and the 16 million, but then the Longs Peak Metropolitan District will reimburse the city for that amount.
Okay, I'm just curious, because, when we received more funds, especially the first year, we had to debate whether or not to hand them back to the people. And do we have any latitude, if there wasn't, if we were lucky enough to have something to come in under budget, could we assign that within the 2E purview to like the hook ramps or
Yep,
something?
we can, definitely. And the first year was the only year that we had to worry about bringing in more revenues than we projected in the ballot question. And as you all know, we did, and voters allowed us to keep that. We don't have to worry about if we bring in more revenues in the next few years, as long as we don't raise more than $38.5 million.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Additional questions? Before I close the public hearing, is there any additional questions that we want to ask staff? Seeing none, we want to close the public hearing, and a motion is in order. Mr. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 56-2019, a resolution adopting the city budget and the appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies for the city of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for the 2020 budget year.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Ms. Weaver. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number 3. Ms. Davis, would you please introduce this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill Number 16-2019, an ordinance amending Section 26-205 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning the regulation of minor accessory dwelling structures in the Residential 1 Zone District. Case number ZOA-19-04. This is an ordinance on the first reading. The purpose of the proposed ordinance is to modify development standards for minor accessory structures in the R1 zone districts, specifically as they relate to the rear and side setbacks and maximum square footage allowed per structure.
Thank you. This is a ordinance on first reading, which purpose is to set the time and location and date for the public hearing. So a motion is in order. Ms. Davis.
Thank you. I move to approve Council Bill Number 16-2019, an ordinance amending Section 26-205 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning the regulation of minor accessory structures in the Residential 1 Zone District on first reading, order it published, public hearing set for Monday, October 28, 2019, at 7:00 p.m. in City Council chambers, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Hoppy. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We'll go to agenda item number 4. Ms. Weaver, would you please introduce agenda item number 4?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Council Bill Number 17, 2019, an ordinance vacating any interest held by the city in a portion of West 38th Avenue, a public roadway. This is an ordinance on first reading, and the City of Wheat Ridge holds rights of ways in trust for the public, and a regular shaped strip of the right-of-way running along the south side of West 38th Avenue eastward from Youngfield Street has been deemed to be excessive and unnecessary by Public Works. Staff recommends transferring the right-of-way to U.S. Retail Partners, the owners of the Applewood Shopping Center.
Thank you very much. This is an ordinance on first reading whose purpose is to set the time, location, and date for a public hearing. Ms. Weaver, a motion is in order.
I move to approve Council Bill Number 17, 2019, an ordinance vacating any interest held by the city in a portion of West 38th Avenue, order it published, public hearing set for Monday, October 28th, 2019, at 7 p.m. in City Council chambers, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Mr. Urban. He's big into the mic. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We will go then now to agenda item number 5. Ms. Hoppy, would you please introduce agenda item number 5?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 5, resolution number 57-2019, a resolution levying general property taxes for the year of 2019 to help defray the costs of government for the city of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for the 2020 budget year.
Thank you. Mr. Knopf, you don't have a presentation on this, do you, or do we?
We don't really, just real quickly though, just as a reminder to council and the public, our current mill levy in the city of Wheat Ridge is 1.830, and to increase the mill levy would require a vote of the people. So this is just a formality that we need to set it every year. We are debruced from the Tabor requirements, so any revenues above our Tabor revenue limit, we don't have to worry about returning to our voters. So if you have any questions, be happy to answer them, but it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Before I go to questions from council, I want to open it up for questions from the public. I have no one here signed up to speak, but it's not too late. If you'd like to come to the podium and speak on this item, you may do so now. Is there anyone that would like to do that? Seeing none, we'll close our public comment portion on this item and move to questions from council. Are there questions of staff from council? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Hoppy, may I have a motion on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 57-2019, a resolution levying general property taxes for the year of 2019 to help defray the costs of government for the city of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for the 2020 budget year.
Second.
We have a motion and a clean second by Ms. Dozeman. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. This brings us to our final item of the night, item number 6. Ms. Dozeman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A motion to cancel the December 23rd, 2019 regular business meeting of the Wheat Ridge City Council due to the Christmas holiday.
Would you read it? What's at issue on this?
The regular City Council business meeting of December 23rd, 2019 is the evening before Christmas Eve. In order to provide time for City Council and staff to spend this holiday with family and friends, it is recommended that City Council cancel this meeting. And it's also my birthday. So, thanks for letting me read this one.
We call this our Christmas gift motion. So, let's see. We wouldn't take, I will open this up for public comment. I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this, but it's not too late. If you want to speak on this item, you may come forward. I don't see anyone. Are there any questions of council? Any discussion? Maybe we should have a motion first. So, Ms. Dozeman, may I have a motion on item number 6?
I move to cancel the December 23rd, 2019 regular City Council business meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Urban. Is there discussion on the motion?
I was just going to kid around and say I could be a real Grinch because I won't be here on the 23rd.
We'll see. We'll see how the votes.
So
we'll see how
I
the
could get a
votes
little
go.
snarky, but anyways, that's all.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Will the clerk please poll the council?
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Christy, you could be like your dad and vote no a lot. He'd like to vote no a lot.
Yeah, but it's by Christmas, and he's a big Christmas guy, so he would be like, don't be a Grinch.
For sure. That concludes our agenda items. I will go to city managers matters. Mr. Goff?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. As I mentioned last week, our remaining 2 retail tenants for the Applewood, or the old Walmart store, opened this weekend, and if you weren't out there, there was people in line waiting to get in. So we met with actually today the owner of the shopping center, and they're very, very, very happy and thankful for the city's contribution to make that a very nice center. So those are going well. Unfortunately, we found out, though, that the Hacienda Colorado is going to be delayed a little bit in opening, probably until after the first of the year. I know. They are ready to go, but they're in the middle of some mergers and acquisitions and refinancing and a bunch of legal stuff. And unfortunately, they won't be opening until after the first of the year. So I saw some pictures of the inside. It looks beautiful. And it's going to be a beautiful restaurant once it's open, so sorry about the delay, but it'll be here soon.
Well, I'm glad that wasn't on the back of the contractors, so.
Yes.
All right, our city attorney was unavoidably laid out of town, so we will not have his report. We will go to elected officials matters. Mr. Keeter.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matthews.
Pass, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Urban.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. Go to Ms. Dozeman.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Very good. Ms. Weaver.
Nothing.
Well, we've got a zipper going here.
We're on a roll, nothing
Ms.
tonight.
Davis.
I'm gonna ruin it. First, I just want to say thank you to this whole body as council, because I know that we had some very late nights with special study sessions after meetings so that we could get a lot of work done before we had the budget study session. And I think that it worked out really well for us this year. We had plenty of time to be able to keep looking at it and having conversations about it. So thank you for the extra time that you guys spent. And then I also wanted to remind everybody, I'm having District 1 meeting, why I support 2E and 1A, October 22nd, 6:30 at the Rec Center.
Thank you. I don't have anything truly significant, except that we have an election coming up on the 5th of November, right? It's the first Tuesday in November. We have a ballot question on the ballot for our city of Wheat Ridge. We have also some 4 council seats that are up for election, and as well as the city clerk and the city treasurer. Important races, good people running. I hope everyone will take the time and make the effort to explore the candidates, to register to vote, and to, more importantly, cast that ballot. The quality of our council and our city government is directly dependent upon that, and that is one of our responsibilities as citizens. So with that, if there be no more business to come before the council, we will stand adjourned.